Today, we're going to be fixing the Kanto Elite Four members by giving them new Pokemon, moves, items, and more. While some of the Pokemon on these teams are iconic for fans, there's a decent amount of room for improvement here. And if you've seen my Kanto Gym Leaders video, you know the drill here. And if you haven't, be sure to check that out first to see how this began. This will be designed with the Gen 3 remakes in mind. And this isn't a Drayano difficulty hack, but a slight buff within the bounds of the generation the game is in. With limited pools of Pokemon for each specialized type, let's see how I can improve these guys. Before we get started, I wanted to mention how amazing the response has been to the Fixing Kanto Gyms video. I've been reading the comments and loved your guys' thoughts for more changes. Based on your responses, I'd like to make 2 more changes though. 1, I'd switch the highest level Pokemon between Koga and Sabrina, since I totally did those gyms out of order. Finally, I think I'd remove the Flareon from Blaine's team, since I think 5 Pokemon should only be reserved for the 8th gym leader. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the first Elite Four member, Lorelei. And in terms of Pokemon changes for this team, there aren't many options for the Ice type. In fact, she's using every Ice type Pokemon found in Kanto. So really the only thing we can do here is update the movesets and equip an item or 2. One thing I'm going to change though is the lead. We'll be switching the Dugong's placement with Cloyster, who will be gaining a level to 52 and keeping the Shell Armor ability. I think keeping Spikes and Protect makes sense here, as it's going for a hazard setup. And although Dive gels nicely with the stall tactics, I think I'll be replacing it with Surf for some added damage. And because its attack stat is a little higher than its special attack, I'll be replacing Hail with a physical move like Double Edge, as it learns it from a tutor in Victory Road. Next up is Dugong at level 52 with Thick Fat. The moveset here will change to Surf, Blizzard, Hail, and Signal Beam. The intention here is to set up Hail as soon as possible while giving it extra damage with 100% accurate Blizzards and some coverage in Signal Beam, which is taught via the move relearner. The next Pokemon Lorelei will send out is Slowbro at level 52 with the new ability Own Tempo. I think being able to prevent confusion will be slightly more useful here than preventing infatuation with Oblivious, its previous ability. The moveset here is pretty great already, but I think having a Psychic type attack will be able to help out a lot if the player is using a fighting type Pokemon against her. So here, I think I'll replace Surf with Psychic, as it's learned via level up. I especially like having Yawn on this guy since it's usually such a sweeping disruptor. After Slowbro comes the only non-water type on Lorelei's team, Jinx at level 54 with its only ability in Gen 3, Oblivious. Although it'd be nice if this thing had its hidden ability Dry Skin, we're gonna have to stay within the limits of the game and keep Oblivious here. But woo-wee! Does Jinx's moveset need some help? First off, let's replace Ice Punch with Ice Beam. There's pretty much no reason to not put Ice Beam on her, since it learns it via TM. Next, we'll replace Double Slap with Psychic, another move learned via TM. Next, with Lovely Kiss sitting at 75% accuracy, I want to replace it with a move that Jinx actually learns in her moveset, Fake Tears, to lower that special defense stat. And for the last slot, I was considering putting Reflect or Light Screen on her, but I think Attract just works better for the character of Jinx overall. So that's the moveset. Finally, Lorelei's last mon is Lapras at level 54 with her other ability Shell Armor. Being able to block crits is pretty fantastic, and I don't think the player is ever going to be using a water type move on the Lapras here, so it's just going to be better. As far as the moveset goes, although this guy can learn Dragon Dance through breeding with Horsey, I just don't think that fits with Lorelei's vibe. There is one thing that I think might be interesting though. The moveset will now consist of Rain Dance, Confuse Ray, Thunder, and Ice Beam. Here, I'm thinking in order to spice up her team a little bit, and given how bulky Lapras is, I think it's going to be able to live a hit to be able to get that Rain Dance and Citrus Berry off without too much of a problem, giving the Lapras a way to get that 100% accurate Thunder off. And in terms of changing the held items, I think I'll be keeping a single Citrus Berry on the aces unless something crazy catches my eye. And that's Lorelei. With not many options for changing her mons up, we've given her a few new moves to help her bring up her team a bit for players. But the changes don't stop there. And if you want to see more changes to the other teams across Pokemon regions, feel free to hit subscribe to stay up to date on them. Anyways, up next is Bruno. And this guy has an interesting team. Bruno has 2 Onyxes, and that's going to be changing here. The unfortunate thing about the other options for Bruno though, is that they are both taken on Chuck's team in Johto. And while that really shouldn't matter too much, I'm assuming he would have similar changes in the Johto Indigo League, so I'd rather not overlap them too much. So with that, instead of Onix 1, Bruno will lead with a Primeape at level 53, and its only ability, Vital Spirit. The moveset will be Swagger, Brick Break, Dig, and Rock Slide, with Brick Break and Dig being learnt via TM, and Rock Slide being learnt via the move tutor. Next up is Hitmonchan at level 54, with its only ability in Gen 3, Keen Eye. The moveset here could use a slight touch-up. I like this guy having Sky Uppercut, as it's able to hit anything that uses Fly, and I like Mach Punch for that priority damage. But for the other two moves, it's pretty easy to just replace them with some elemental punches, as they are learnt via level up. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. And looking at the type chart, I think giving it Ice Punch and Thunder Punch will provide the most amount of coverage for this guy. Up next is Hitmonlee at 54, with its only ability in Gen 3, Limber. And the moveset is going to change a bit here. Hitmonlee will now have Mega Kick, Mind Reader, High Jump Kick, and Meditate. I think that giving these lower accuracy moves works decently given Mind Reader too. Plus, all these moves are learnt via level up. And on top of that, if it's given any free turns, it's got a chance to set up with Meditate. From here, I'm going to do something a little controversial. I'm choosing to keep Onix 2 here, mainly just to show off how it has evolved between Kanto and Johto and the Elite Four. This is something I was always somewhat mad about when playing Heart Gold for the first time, so I definitely want to make sure you can see some cross-gen evos occur on some of these teams. And I did consider bringing Poliwrath, but he's just too iconic for Chuck to take away here. Anyways, Onix will be level 56 with Rockhead, and the moveset is tricky here. See, we all know that Onix's attack stat is beyond weak. So I wanted to try to remedy that through the moveset, but giving it a utility move or two to support the rest of the team. But especially in Gen 3, my options are incredibly limited, so there's not much we can do to help. So the moveset here is going to be Sandstorm, Rock Smash, Earthquake, and Explosion. I wanted to give it Double Edge to bank on the Rockhead ability, but Earthquake just does more damage with Stab. The idea here is to set up Sandstorm, maybe get off a Rock Smash to drop the player's defense, and then explode. Finally, Bruno brings out his ace, Machamp, at level 56, with the only possible ability, Guts. And guys, believe me when I say, I've tried every possible way to get this guy a status condition, but Flame Orb doesn't exist until Gen 4, and the berries that inflict a status condition only gives Confusion, which doesn't activate Guts. So the only thing that will activate it is if the player hits it with a move that inflicts a status condition. But if I missed an item here, I'd replace the Citrus Berry with it, but for now, the berry stays. Machamp's moveset will be Bulk Up, Cross Chop, Double Edge, and Rock Slide, with Double Edge and Rock Slide being learnt via move tutors. I don't think Scary Face adds too much for Machamp, so I think because this guy is so strong, keeping Cross Chop's 80% accuracy and giving it Double Edge with self-inflicting damage will help balance it out with an upgraded Rock-type coverage move in Rock Slide. And there we have it, Bruno's updated team. We've given a few great coverage moves alongside a new face. Third up is Agatha, the Ghost type master, a type with extremely limited options in Kanto, sporting only a single Ghost type line in Gengar. What Game Freak has done here is added some Poison type Pokemon with scary features to fill up her team a bit here. But to me, I really wanted to take a good look at the other choices for some better ghost-like or creepy vibes. The shortlist I've come up with for the potential slot members are Ninetales, Parasect, Hypno, and Marowak. Ninetales, Parasect, and Hypno all have somewhat spooky vibes attributed to them, while Marowak is a little bit more obvious, being the ghost in Pokemon Tower, and the Alolan form too. But while Parasect would do great in countering the counters to ghosts, being dark and psychic types, I don't think its character is strong enough to keep him here. So with that in mind, Agatha will open with her first Gengar at level 55 with Levitate. The moveset will be Confuse Ray, Shadow Ball, Mean Look, and Toxic. The idea here is instead of stalling with evasiveness strats, Gengar 1 will lock the player's Pokemon in before hitting it with Toxic and Confuse Ray to whittle it down. Next up is Golbat at level 56 with Inner Focus. The moveset is Confuse Ray, Giga Drain, Aerial Ace, and Poison Fang. Here, the only thing I wanted to change was the added coverage of Giga Drain with Aerial Ace learned via TM. Just want to point out that I learned that Golbat couldn't learn Fly in Gen 3. The more you know. Coming out next is the replacement to Agatha's Haunter, Hypno. Even though I already put this Pokemon on Sabrina's team, its vibes match up too well with Agatha to miss out on, especially since there's a bigger gap between these fights than seeing Blaine's Ninetales in the 7th gym, which, as a reminder, doesn't learn Shadow Ball or anything like that in Gen 3. So the Hypno will be level 56 with the ability Insomnia and the moveset Disable, Shadow Ball, Hypnosis, and Dream Eater, with Dream Eater being learned via the Move Tutor and Shadow Ball being learned via TM. I think this set more closely aligns with Agatha over what I gave to Sabrina's Hypno. Next out, instead of Agatha's Arbok, will be Marowak. Even though this guy doesn't learn any Ghost-type moves, I think it works better than Arbok due to its association with the Pokemon Tower and the Alola form. Marowak will be level 56 with the ability Rockhead, along with the moveset consisting of Bone Meringue, Double Edge, Rock Slide, and Thief, with Rock Slide being learnt via Move Tutor and Thief being learnt via TM. I tried for a more Ghost-like moveset, but there really aren't that many options for us, so Thief is really the best we're going to have to do here. Finally, Agatha will send out Gengar 2, who honestly, I have no complaints with. I don't see a way to improve this guy, as it seems it's going for the Nightmare Sleep route, which I'm a fan of. Oh, and as far as the item on this team goes, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that we're giving Marowak the Thick Club, since, you know, the item is made for it. And we'll go ahead and slap a Citrus Berry on the second Gengar too. So there's Agatha's team for you guys. I tried to make the team's replacements fit her aesthetic as closely as possible, while adding a slight amount of challenge to the team overall. Finally, the last Elite Four member of the Indigo Plateau is Lance, the Dragon-type specialist, who, again, is working with just a single Dragon-type line in the game. So this team takes a lot of liberties with its other members, and I'm here for it. What ends up happening in this Elite Four is the deeper the team is in the league, the more diverse the team ends up being, capping off with Blue's team, which straight up doesn't have a type associated with it. So in order to move that forward and bridge the gap between the diversity of Agatha's new team and what Blue is going for, I'd like to add a few things from Lance's champion team in Johto to his Elite Four team here in Kanto. So first up is his iconic Gyarados at level 57 with Intimidate and the moves Surf, Dragon Dance, Twister, and Thrash. I think taking away Bite and Dragon Rage are both fine here, because Bite is special in Gen 3, and Dragon Rage just really isn't that great in the late game, obviously. And yeah, Dragon Dance here will only boost the Thrash damage, but I'd rather have a Water-type move than not. Next up is Dragonair 1 at level 58 and Shed Skin with the moves Thunder Wave, Outrage, Thunderbolt, and Hyper Beam. I think Safeguard would just be a complete waste since it's already Shed Skin, and Thunderbolt being learnt via TM will help defend against any potential water types with Ice Beam if they are slow and fragile enough. Next, replacing the second Dragonair is Charizard. I think this is the only case in which a starter Pokemon can be on a gym leader or an Elite Four member's team. It's just too iconic to pass up. Charizard will be level 58 with Blaze and the moveset of Flamethrower, Fly, Dragon Claw, and Metal Claw. With Fly and Dragon Claw being learnt via TM, I think this is a really good de-escalation from his Charizard on the champion team in Johto. Next up, Lance's Aerodactyl sits at level 58 with Pressure and the moves Fly, Ancient Power, Steel Wing, and Hyper Beam. While I'm not a fan of Hyper Beam personally, like at all on any Pokemon, I really think that having it in a few places is really just iconic for Lance. Anyways, if the player has made it this far, Lance will send out his ace, Dragonite, at level 60, with its only Gen 3 ability, Inner Focus. Its moveset will consist of Thunder Wave, Outrage, Fly, and Dragon Dance. I think replacing Hyper Beam for Dragon Dance works fine here, as it instantly makes it much more of a threat that needs to be taken down fast. I think in this case the item should be a Persian Berry on the Dragonite to make sure that its Outrage won't confuse it the first time it goes through it. And there we go. That's Lance's team, and the rest of the Elite Four taken care of. But wait, there's one last threat to take care of. And that's your rival, Blue. I'll go ahead and show all three variants of his team, depending on which starter you chose. Blue already has a pretty fantastic team, and I have almost no complaints. I was very close to replacing Executor with something like Victreebel, since he's already got another Psychic type on the team, but I just really think it's too iconic for him at this point to replace. And for most of my changes on this team, it'll be increasing a level and changing out a move or two for either a stronger move or one with more accuracy. So starting out the fight, Blue will be sending in his classic Pidgeot at level 60 with Key 9 and the moveset of Fly, Feather Dance, Return, and Mirror Move, with Fly and Return being learnt via TM. I think Return here is a great character pick as it shows how much he's grown with his Pidgeot throughout their adventure together. Next up is the classic Alakazam at level 59 with Synchronize, and the moveset will largely stay the same, except I'll be changing Future Sight to Shockwave for some added coverage, similar to Sabrina's Alakazam. Next up is Rhydon, and while I feel like a different Pokemon could be better here, I think it's just irreplaceable for Blue's team. So here, Rhydon will be level 60, and with Rock Head and the moveset of Rock Slide, Double Edge, Earthquake, and Mega Horn, resembling Giovanni's Rhydon, with Rock Slide and Double Edge being learnt via move tutors. Here, I'm mainly just boosting Rhydon's attack output while taking advantage of Rock Head. Up next, we'll cover the part of the team that changes with each starter. What we'll do here is show you the movesets and abilities for each Pokemon, and then show you the 3 separate teams with the levels for each. So let's cover the 3 Pokemon that fill in for the starters first. Up to bat is Gyarados with Intimidate, who will be sporting the moveset of Surf, Dragon Dance, Bite, and Thrash. Here, I didn't give it a Dragon type move to separate it from Lance's Gyarados, and went with Surf over Hydro Pump for a perfect accuracy. Next up is Executor with Chlorophyll, with the moves Sleep Powder, Light Screen, Giga Drain, and Leech Seed. Here, I chose not to give a Psychic type attack due to Alakazam filling that role, and instead included more status and healing options to keep this thing alive longer. Next out is Arcanine, with Intimidate and the moves Flamethrower, Extreme Speed, Dig, and Roar. The only thing I really wanted to do here is to give it some coverage while still taking advantage of his attack stat, so Dig kind of worked out perfectly, being learned via TM. Okay, now on to the starter Pokemon, who will all be level 63, like normal. First up is Charizard, with Blaze, who will be rocking Flamethrower, Fly, Slash, and Metal Claw. Here, I'm just replacing the stab moves with more reliable options alongside Metal Claw for added coverage. For the item though, I want to do something a little bit different. Even though this item is not obtainable in Fire Red Leaf Green by the player, I want to put the Salac Berry on Charizard, which raises the holder's speed by 1 stage when the holder's HP drops to 1/4 or below. I think that the champion of the game is okay to have an item that's pretty high up there in the craziness. Blastoise with Torrent is out next with the moves Protect, Surf, Bite, and Skull Bash. And for the item, I really wanted to give it the Power Herb to make Skull Bash a 1-turn move, but it wasn't created until Gen 4. So we'll be sticking the Apricot Berry on him, which raises the holder's special defense by 1 stage when the holder's HP drops to 1/4 or below. Finally, Blue's Venusaur with Overgrow will have the same moves except Sludge Bomb instead of Growth. For the item, I'll be giving Venusaur a Pitaya Berry, which raises the holder's special attack by 1 stage when the holder's HP drops below 1/4. And with that, I'll go ahead and show you the completed teams for each starter choice. First is if Blue had Charizard, next is if Blue had Blastoise, and last is if Blue chose Venusaur. And that's that. My version of the Elite Four and Champion and the Gen 3 remakes of Kanto. I'd love to make this into a ROM hack, along with some forms of quality life updates or buffs to certain Pokemon, like making Hypno part Dark type. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, let me know in the comments below. And if everything goes well, I'll start the Johto part of this series with buffs to certain Pokemon that are underutilized too. I also want to mention my channel members, Kai and HARDMODE Lore. Thank you so much for the support. It means a lot. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. I've been Oak Creations, and I'll see you all in the next one.